Good afternoon. This public hearing of the Leon County Board of County Commissioners is called to order at 6:02 p.m. on September 28th, 2021. Commissioner Jackson is unable to join us this evening, so he's asked me to introduce the pastor he selected to give the invocation. So the Leon County Commission would like to offer a warm welcome to Pastor Ben Kempfer, lead pastor of Downtown Community Church. Welcome, sir. Would you please provide the invocation for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I believe our daughters went to daycare together at Creative Preschool. So good to see a creative alum. All right, let's pray. Jesus, I thank you so much for the time that we have together today. This evening, as we are gathered in this beautiful space, I pray that you would help us to not forget how blessed we are to live in a place like Tallahassee under capable leadership. And I just pray that you would continually help us to be reminded and thankful that though the necessity of leadership is it faces challenges and it looks to solve them, that we would never lose sight of both the responsibility and the honor that is. Though at times it can be thankless and overwhelming, I do thank you for the leadership that is gathered here today. I pray that they would oversee what happens, oversee the things that happen in our county and in our city in a way that is glorifying to you, is edifying to the community. And I pray that as we would continually be in awe of you, knowing that leadership is simply stewardship, and we are accountable to you. And so, God, I pray that you would help give wisdom to know the complexities of difficult situations, clarity to see the right thing to do, that you would give them the wisdom to see and then the courage to act on it. And so, Jesus, I ask that as this meeting continues on and as the leadership continues on, that you would simply help this to be a trajectory of a place to continually create a place that we love to call home. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Kempfer, thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor. And best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Proctor, would you please deliver the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Chair Proctor. It's my understanding Commissioner Jackson might be with us virtually. Commissioner Jackson, are you with us, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you introducing the pastor tonight. Hopefully, I will be with you in person really soon.
You're very welcome, sir. Hopefully, you can join us next time. Well, before we begin with the business of tonight, why don't we could I entertain a motion to allow Commissioner Jackson to participate virtually? Motion's been made by Commissioner Dozier and seconded by Commissioner Cummings. Thank you very much. All in favor of the motion at hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All opposed?
Aye, of course.
Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Welcome, Commissioner Jackson. All right, Mr. County Administrator, am I correct in saying that there are no items under awards and presentations?
You are correct.
Is it also the same with consent?
Yes, it is.
All right, so next we're at citizens to be heard on non-agended items. Would you please introduce the first speaker?
We have one citizen to be heard on non-agenda items who's joining us by Zoom, William Baker.
Mr. Baker, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you please state your name and address for the record? And you have 3 minutes. Mr. Baker, can you hear us?
All right, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, hello? We can. We can hear you well. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Baker, we can hear you. Would you please state your name and address for the record? And you have 3 minutes.
All right, I was just stating that I have a lot on Buck Point Road and that it's a non-county maintained road. I have flooding and draining issues. I have spoken to Leon County Environmental Management about taking care of those issues and paying for them ourselves. I was told that my request was denied. They told me that I had to build a home on that property and then they would approve it. I've asked for alternatives and Leon County Environmental has been non-responsive.
All right, Mr. Baker, we can ask county staff to look into that. Mr. County Administrator, would you be able to follow up with Mr. Baker?
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Baker, we'll have county staff contact you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for hearing me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. Mr. County Administrator, are there any other speakers?
No, there are not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so now on the agenda, we are at the scheduled public hearings. Commissioners, this is the second and final of the required public hearings on the Leon County budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. If you wish to speak in person, please complete a speaker's card and turn it into the clerk. Citizens who registered to provide virtual comments will be asked to speak prior to the commission taking votes on the millage rate and budget. Now, the County Administrator, Vincent Long, will read the millage rate into the public record. Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, the proposed aggregate millage rate is 8.8144 mils, which is 0.98% over the aggregate rolled back millage rate of 8.7290 mils. Ad valorem revenues will increase due to an upturn in property values and will be used to support the following: enhanced support for law enforcement and public safety, including additional deputies, technical support personnel, and correctional officers; sustaining an elevated countywide service delivery; sound fiscal planning to avoid fee increases for fire services, EMS, and solid waste; and continued community investment in our parks, greenways, roads, and sidewalks, and more. Commissioners, you have provided all the necessary guidance during the development of the tentative budget. All that direction provided in the various agendas and workshops during the budget process, of course, has been included in the FY22 final budget. However, should you still desire, Commissioner, staff is prepared to provide a brief presentation on the budget. Absent that, Commissioners, I will hand it back to our chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Administrator. Commissioners, are you interested in hearing a brief budget presentation, or would you like to proceed? What's the will of the board?
Mr. Chairman, we've been sufficiently immersed in the details of our budget. We've been through multiple workshops. We've had individual briefings. We've had a previous hearing before tonight, and therefore it's my perspective that our board has registered all concerns that we've had, and we're well pleased tonight to move forward. And if you're willing for me to make a motion that we adopt that budget as presented, is that options 1, 2, or 3? Do you have to read something first, or what's the protocol?
Yeah, Vice Chair Proctor, I'll need to go through each motion one at a time, sir, but I agree with your assessment. So at this time, the individuals that are appearing in person and virtually are allowed to speak on the budget. Mr. County Administrator, do we have any speakers?
We have no speakers.
Okay. Florida statutes requires the board to address the millage rate before addressing each budget. The board must vote on each millage rate and budget separately. I will now entertain the following motions one at a time. The first one would be to adopt via detached resolution the final FY 2021-2022 countywide millage rate of 8.3144 mils. Is there a motion to that?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion has been made by Vice Chair Proctor, seconded by Commissioner Cummings. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. The second motion would be adopt via attached resolution the final FY 2021-2022 countywide budget. Is there a motion to that effect?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Vice Chair Proctor. Is that correct, sir? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 7-0. The next motion is to adopt via attached resolution the final FY 2021-2022 Emergency Medical Services MSTU millage rate of 0.5000 mils. Is there a motion for that? To that? Motion has been made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Commissioner Maddox. All in favor of the motion, say aye. 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 All opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 7-0. And the final motion I'd request would be to adopt via attached resolution the final FY 2021-2022 Emergency Medical Services MSTU budget. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion's been made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Commissioner Welch. All in favor of the motion, say aye. 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 All opposed? The motion passes unanimously, 7-0. And that concludes the agenda items for our scheduled public hearing. Mr. County Administrator, next order of business is general business. Would you please introduce that item?
Thank you, Commissioners. As you will recall at your September 14th meeting, you requested, the board requested, and I'll have Claudia Blackburn, our Leon County Director of Health, present in just a few moments, but I'll jog your memory. I know it's been a busy couple of days for you. What you requested on September 14th was that staff convene our public health officials along with our healthcare providers to discuss health metrics the county monitors during COVID-19 and to seek any additional health metric recommendations that the county could consider following. And specifically, staff and the healthcare providers discussed if there were any recommendations for reporting to the board when certain health metric thresholds have been reached to inform future board decisions related to possibly additional mitigation measures. Commissioners, I'll provide a brief overview of our meeting with the health officials, then I'll ask Matt Cavell and Claudia to go into some additional detail on the health metrics. Both Matt and Claudia will be available to answer any questions that you might have following this brief presentation. But as a quick reminder to the board, I wanted to share that the county has been and will continue to be in regular communication with our community health care providers and our public health officials as we have throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. We meet at least weekly with our healthcare partners and discuss health metrics, operations, surge planning, resourcing, and much more. We've been doing so since March of 2020, and will continue to do so again throughout the public health emergency. Now, turning to the requested meeting, staff met with officials from Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, Capital Regional Medical Center, the Department of Health, and both FQHCs, Bond and Neighborhood, and the group nominated Claudia to speak on their behalf tonight. So as I mentioned, you'll be hearing from her in just a moment. With consensus, our health officials confirmed that the county monitors all the recommended metrics for new cases to percent positivity. Let me repeat that. With consensus, health officials confirmed that the county monitors all of the recommended health metrics from new cases to percent positivity, to hospitalizations, to vaccination rates, and more, which Matt will cover and he'll hit in a bit more detail soon. Additionally, while reflecting on the latest Delta variant surge, the group discussed if there were any thresholds one or more metrics should reach to inform future board decisions related to mitigation measures. With consensus, the health officials agreed to continue to monitor the data and our community health care efforts, and if at any time they collectively saw the need for additional mitigation measures, they would notify the county, and I would bring that back to the board at that time. Now, for more detail on that, the county's health metrics and monitoring and the data points that we closely track, I'd like to recognize Matt, who will be followed by Claudia.
Thank you, Vince. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm just going to do a brief overview again of that call with a little bit more detail on what we have done in relation to following metrics for the public health emergency, and then the metrics that we currently follow in coordination with our healthcare providers here locally, and just a little bit of the takeaways from that requested meeting. To begin, the background of what we've been tracking for COVID-19 is extensive and has developed over time since, as Vince had mentioned, in March of 2020. We've had the Emergency Operations Center activated, as you're well aware, for 560 consecutive days today. During that time, we've coordinated nearly 1,600 different conference calls or meetings with more than 21,000 participants from across all disciplines, but most importantly, our healthcare providers here locally. And of those 1,600 calls, I think Kevin's probably been on 1,599 of them. We also, on those weekly coordinating calls with public health officials, local hospitals, healthcare providers, all the way from big hospitals to specialty care, we discuss things as the healthcare capacity issues for not only our specific community here at the county level, but also the region, because Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare and Capital Regional Medical Center serve the neighboring counties. In addition to that, we discuss on a regular basis the metrics and data that we monitor, that they monitor, and that are best used to inform the decisions the county does during a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then lastly, we discuss any other and ongoing mitigation measures, as well as, importantly, public health communication efforts as it relates to safety, distancing, masking, and vaccinations. Now, out of those folks that were requested to come to the meeting, that was again, as Vincent mentioned, the Florida Department of Health in Leon County, Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, Capital Regional Medical Center, Bond Community Health, and Neighborhood Medical Center, all of which are participants on those weekly coordinating calls that we have to discuss those issues we just mentioned. Out of that, we outlined what the county tracks, and we began tracking metrics of a very specific nature, new cases, in April of 2020, and have reported those in every daily or weekly update to the board, bringing us to update 320 most recently that you'd received last Friday. Out of that, some of those key metrics that inform the decisions that we do in emergency management are things such as the 7-day rolling total of new COVID-19 cases. What is that number? Just recently from your Friday update, slightly more than 1,000. COVID-19 case positivity rate from the previous week, just north of 7%. Hospitalizations, just south of 120. ICU numbers, folks in intensive care, about 18. The vaccination rate for our community, 60% of those eligible have received at least one shot of the vaccine. Now, officials confirmed that those metrics that we follow are the correct and best ones to follow and had nothing additional to add to that list of recommendations and metrics that we watch. Now, out of that, those metrics that we watch, as you know, commissioners, and as we've reinforced multiple times, we follow what the national public health guidance provides. As you've heard recently, beginning on July 27th, the Centers for Disease Control had identified communities of high transmission, of which all counties in Florida are areas of high community transmission. I'm happy to say that while our numbers have declined for 2 consecutive weeks, we are still, though, however, an area of high transmission, and that is determined by the factors that you see on the screen, which informs our decisions at the county when it comes to face coverings for employees, but also face coverings as recommended in facilities. Generally speaking, while we're at just in the moderate threshold for testing, we're still high as it comes to the new number of cases, triple that, which actually ranks out as high. So while the decline will still continue, hopefully into the future, we're still at a level that the CDC would recognize as substantial or high transmission risk. And again, that informs decisions such as face covering and other operations. Out of all that, though, with that consensus data, while there were no additional recommendations for COVID-19 metrics to regularly track, the group had said, specific to the idea of thresholds, that no one single metric or combination of metrics is something that would necessitate a threshold for decision-making. However, public health, as I've learned from being involved since March of last year, is an art and a science. And out of that is the evaluation of our healthcare providers of the qualitative and quantitative data that makes up healthcare in our community. Specifically, as part of the county's ongoing weekly coordinating calls that we have done and will continue to do with our health officials, they've agreed to continue to evaluate all metrics collectively and to issue recommendations, as the county administrator had mentioned, related to additional mitigation should trend data indicate such. Now, the best person to speak to that group, one, because she was nominated by that group, but also she's our public health official, is Claudia Blackburn. I'm going to turn it over to Claudia Blackburn to provide some brief comments at the conclusion of this presentation, and then obviously, as the county administrator had said, we'll be available for any questions the board may have. So give me 1 second to toggle over. And there's Claudia. Claudia, I'm going to recognize you now to continue the presentation.
It's like I'm there about 6 times. Good evening, commissioners and Vince and Matt. That was a great presentation, much better than I would have done, so I appreciate that. And commissioners, I really don't have anything to add. As Matt said, the Leon County Emergency Management has been convening sector meetings throughout the pandemic. Most important, well, one of the most important ones, of course, is with the healthcare partners. We have been meeting again weekly since the Delta surge, and really what Matt said is exactly right. We look at the data that he discussed. We talk about any unmet needs. We work to meet those needs as a group, and we look at the best available guidance that's out there, and do what we can do within the the world that we live in our individual worlds and our collective world. So really, I have nothing to add. I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is what the group recommended. And unfortunately, there's not a particular trigger or threshold. We're always looking for that, but really that just doesn't work, has not worked for this pandemic. So thank you. And thank you, Matt. And thank you, Mr. County Manager. And thank you, Commissioners, for your interest.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Administrator, that concludes our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Great. Thank you very much, Matt. Ms. Blackburn, thank you again, as always, for joining us during these meetings and providing updates. We're very grateful for it. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Vice Chair Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt, I was trying to understand what is our expected outcome and what gives rise for our organizing this group.
Commissioner Proctor, the ones that we had mentioned, and the recent special meeting that we had called was given board action at the September 14th meeting.
I'm sorry, Matt.
That's okay. This group that we just mentioned meets on a regular coordinating basis every week, these healthcare providers. The special meeting we just discussed was requested by the board at the September 14th meeting.
Are we expecting this group to put information out specific to Leon County?
Yeah.
Or are they just among themselves? This is not information to be dispersed to us, or are they a brain trust to advise someone, or it's an aesthetic to say that we're monitoring? That's what I'm trying to see. What is the data that they share? What happens, and what is it purposed to do?
So that data that they share with us informs the board updates that we provide to the board, but also the operations of emergency management, whether it relates to recommendations, distributing PPE, and the operations of emergency management as a whole, but also the county. This group, again, meets on a regular basis and often coordinates with us on public health information and outreach and communications about what the hospitals are seeing on the front lines and informing what we do for vaccination communication and street outreach in the community. But I'll see if the administrator has any more.
Mr. County Administrator.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Proctor, and certainly I'll defer to Commissioner Dozier on this. I think one of the issues, acknowledging that, and I think we all recognize this, that this group, again, we've said it a lot, meets regularly, talks regularly. I think one of the clarifications that Commissioner Dozier was seeking, and that the board supported at the last meeting, was just going a little bit further than this, and to ask, is there any, in addition to everything that we are monitoring and regularly reporting to the board on and making decisions based on at the EOC level, is there a consensus among our public health and medical community of trend data out there that would trigger them to report back to this board to make any recommendations to you all on additional public health mitigation? So is there trend data on what was back then, increasing a Delta variant surging or future variant surging, which might require us to come back to the board to say, Commissioners, it's now time to move into another level of public health mitigation. And again, Commissioner Dozier, I know you'll help me out with that, but I tried to capture just the spirit of it.
Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Thank you, Matt. Commissioner Jackson, let me check in with you. Did you have any comments or questions, sir, on this item?
Pardon me, nothing at this time. Claudia, I did want to, I can't remember if you said it, Matt or Claudia, but I did want to recognize that we have decreased now for 4 consecutive weeks, if my math is correctly, and we are sitting at a positivity rate around 5.77 for last week. Is that correct, Matt and Claudia?
Commissioner, that is the last 7 days. That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I know the 5.77, but what I'm saying is that the positivity rate has gone down over the last 4 weeks when you look at the last 30-day period. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. I think that is a signal that it's headed in the right direction. By no means are we satisfied with 5.77, but I think some of the predictions that talked about a Labor Day fallout and also I know myself personally, large crowds at football games, we might have expected more, and I think it shows that hopefully everyone, even the youngest among us, are taking the necessary precautions. But thank you for the outstanding report. Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Commissioner Jackson. I've got Commissioner Dozier. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go back to County Administrator's very good summary there in a second. But I need a little bit of clarity on this. And it came up, I think, at our last meeting. So if I'm looking at the weekly number from last Friday's update, it says 7.2 positivity. And Commissioner Jackson, I think you and Claudia had an exchange last week. You had a different number than what was in the update. So can we just get a little clarity on the number we received last Friday? Was that from the prior week and we are now down even further? Or help me out with those two numbers, the 5.77 versus the 7.2.
And Commissioner, let me just jump in here, and then if Claudia has anything else to add, I'm happy to say that. On Friday, the percent positivity as reported by the Florida Department of Health was 7.2%, which was included within the update. If you look today, to my comment to Commissioner Jackson, over the past 7 days, it has reduced to 5.72%, I believe, which is a further reduction from Friday, but again, in that 7-day average.
It reduced by 0.72?
Yeah, it is reduced from 7.2 to 5.7% if you look at the past 7 days.
That's fantastic. Okay. And I don't know if you have anything else, Claudia, but that really helps me. I just wanted to make sure we had some clarity there because that 7.2 number was in there, and getting closer to the 5%, that is in the low range, and that is pretty exceptional. If we think about, we were at nearly 16% back in August, right? If I remember that correctly. So that is exceptional. I agree, Commissioner Jackson. This is really good progress. So I would just also add to that, I have spoken to both of our hospital administrators a couple times, several times in the last few weeks, and both of them kind of weren't quite sure. I don't think any of us were where we would land when it was, mid-August and towards the end of August. And then in the last few weeks, I think we're all hearing the same, that a lot more confidence, whether it's here locally or nationally, that we really are seeing hopefully the end of the Delta surge. And there's a little bit more optimism, I suppose, going into the fall. And I'm really glad to hear that. So back to what you had said, Mr. County Administrator, in those conversations with our two hospital admins, there was a suggestion that as a way to address constituent questions, our community's questions about why not mask or why would you ever think about masking again? We get the whole range, right? But hearing from a lot of constituents and really encouraging us to consider a broader county mask mandate, I was very interested in understanding what those metrics were, confirming that, and importantly, making sure that we have a pipeline from these experts to make a recommendation if needed, if we see another surge coming in the future. What I've learned from them is, if we're going to do mitigation, we've talked about this for over a year, we need to do it on the front end of a surge. It really wasn't going to work with us, which is, frankly, I wasn't going to advocate for a mask mandate at the point where we were at the special meeting, et cetera, because we were already seeing a decline. But just making sure we're all on the same page and that I have an answer, that we all have an answer for our constituents who may ask this question, we can now affirmatively say we've heard it as a board that you're having these calls, they agree, and I want to acknowledge you're having these calls all the time anyhow, and I'm really glad you started them back up. I think it was early, like right when the Delta surge was happening, that's my understanding, you were really on the ball and getting all these folks together for your weekly calls, and that's fantastic. But we know, and we can affirm to our constituents, that we will hear a recommendation if ever it's needed. And that's who we should be listening to, is our healthcare providers. So I am very happy, and Mr. County Administrator, I think you probably did a better job summing that up than I did, but I'm very happy with this report and just kind of really understanding that and having it distilled so that we can let our community know what we're looking at, and if ever there's a need, we're going to get that recommendation. So this is great, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. I've got, in the speaker's queue, I've got Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Maddox, and then Vice Chair Proctor. Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Ms. Blackburn and Mr. Covelli for the teamwork and for the great report today. My question was really related to the positivity rate, but I believe the response that they have given to Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Dozier has addressed my question about where we are. And I'm very pleased with where we are as far as the positivity rates. And God, I hope that they continue to go down and not spike. So thank you guys for keeping us informed. I want to thank the county administrator for always keeping us informed in that respect. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Cummings. Thank you very much. Commissioner Maddox and then Vice Chair Proctor.
Thank you. Claudia, I had a conversation with Mark O'Brien, and we asking him kind of what we should be thinking and the way we should be moving forward. And one of the things he brought up was, I think he said, strength tracking, I believe he said. Are we doing that much as new strands come out, tracking, seeing where they're coming from, what it's doing in other areas, that kind of thing? He thought that would be very effective if we caught it on the front end and make couple with some of the comments Commissioner Dozier said. So I want to know if he could speak to that. If we're already doing it. If we're not, can we build a system whereby we're doing it in a sophisticated way? Thank you.
Yeah, that is happening. There are specimens that are sequenced by the CDC, and FSU also has a program where they're sequencing specimens as well. So yes, that is being tracked.
Can we be, is it some kind of way, because if that's being tracked, I would imagine it's been tracked since the beginning or somewhere close to it. The question that goes through my head is, at the beginning of, I think, this Delta variant, at some point we knew it was coming before it got to the point it had gotten to, and maybe an early alert would have put us in a position where we took some measures much earlier than we did, and the numbers could have been a little less. So I'm wondering, what kind of information are we getting as policymakers or the county administrators getting this passed to us on the front end of these variants that's coming, how bad they're going to be, and expectations and estimations about how contagious and all that kind of stuff it is. Can you talk a little bit about timing-wise? I was talking through a timeline of as you go through this process, when we're notified and when, the possibility of us taking action would be in order to prevent a hike like we've seen, like we saw over the summer.
Let me get back with my staff and get you an answer to your question, and I will send an email to you all with some information about that.
Okay. It's not quite the answer I was looking for, but I'll take that. I just think process-wise, if there's a process we can go through that kind of points out, okay, we see this Delta variant coming. We saw it in this county, this state, that state. It looked like it's coming here. This is what we're noticing about it. And it's projected that it's going to increase our numbers by this, that, and the other. So, and I'm talking about very early, because Commissioner Dozier said it, by the time we had our special meeting, we were already on our way down. But if we could have caught that thing, let's say June, then we could have quite possibly prevented a spike. And I don't know if any other county or city is doing this, but I'd like for us to if we could. Thank you.
Commissioner Maddox, I think the county administrator can comment on that. Mr. County Administrator.
Well, obviously, and thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, obviously a very reasonable and logical thinking there. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we had that conversation with the chief medical officers of all of the hospitals, as well as the FQHCs. And I just wanted to again confirm for you that what they said was, as they're tracking all of the information, that they would immediately report to us and that we would report to you. That goes back, Commissioner, to even earlier in the Delta variant. Said otherwise, if they would have seen anything that looked to them early on, that in terms of the trend data, that we could, if there were any mitigation measures that they would recommend to us, that they would have done that. That's what they said to us in this meeting. We would have let you know, and we would have, and you could have reported to the board. Similarly, going forward, they agreed to do the same thing, taking into consideration everything that we track. If there is anything that's an indicator, a leading indicator, that they will report that to us, and of course, we'll report that to the board.
Mr. Administrator, that gives me more comfort. Claudia, knowing that we're getting the information, I don't even need a report from you. I just want to know that we're getting the information from somewhere and that that tracking is being done. So I'm totally pleased with the process. And I rely on our healthcare professionals to make the suggestions and recommendations. And I know, Mr. Administrator, you'll bring that information back to us to set policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. I've got Vice Chair Proctor and then Commissioner Dozier. Vice Chair Proctor.
Commissioners, the theory and outline of what Commissioner Dozier has sought to bring to us is on paper. It looks workable. And as the county administrator just indicated, the reporting of what they find back to us. I'm not going to hold my breath for their reporting. Integrity is an important word. And integrity in America's handling of this pandemic is shot. And the integrity of the leaders who make this roundtable is caught in the middle between courage on one side and fear on the other. The political climate such that the front page article of today's newspaper has a high official in this community suggesting that the head of state of this state is a bully. And was it last week that so soon a new Surgeon General who within 24 hours of being hired makes a sweeping unilateral decision and not sure who advises him. He certainly, I doubt, has seen the data from the 67 counties. The health leaders wasn't here long enough to make the phone calls to make that kind of decision when so many minds collectively had arrived at a posture with respect to face masking. You know, when integrity is caught between fear and courage, some might say that's caught between a rock and a hard place. And the muzzle placed upon state health leaders is well known, and that this group has given leadership to Claudia, who works for state health, indicates that either, well, they're all very busy, but the fear of retribution, the reprisals, and the climate of bullying, everybody quick kick leadership to Claudia, who has all year long been placed between that rock and hard place with respect to reporting and us getting information and the public getting information, Mr. Chairman. So everybody's shaking. And it's just not here in our county with the governor who has health management under siege, reporting health officials' homes being broken into, arrested, computers lifted. This has just been a hell of a place. And I'm not sure what the breakthrough will be with this panel, unique from anybody else. Weak sisters holding each other up in a cloudy moment. And I'm hopeful that the communications which comes to us, God, I hope I don't have to doubt it, or that it's been sprinkled down, filtered. And as Commissioner Dozier said, is it 7 point this or 5.7 or what is it? Those kind of things. These entities have used different metrics, different measures throughout to capture their numbers. And if there's not a uniform slate that they're reporting by, what does that? We have to use a what's that thing that converts which each set of numbers mean relative to one the other. So it's my hope that integrity in this reporting will be bolstered and the buoyancy of courage will undergird these reportings. And I hope that we see something unique and something different, that the health field has been reticent and almost beaten into submission. We see it at the CDC. We see a distinction in the White House and the CDC, with internal CDC. And I hope that courage and the scientists and the true science will get to see the light of day. So, Ms. Blackburn, I'm asking for the courage of your heart and of this group to not politicize what you know to be our truth, and that y'all will stand on the side of that this commission can make its decisions against bullying if these numbers surge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair Proctor. We've got Commissioner Dozier to wrap it up. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just going to quickly say, I think our legislative priorities, our workshop earlier, really hit on a lot of the issues that we've had a lot of challenges with. I'm just going to sum that up. And so I'm glad that we're leaning in that way. And really appreciate, Mr. County Administrator, you and your team's leadership in putting those issues into the legislative priorities and really elevating them. So thank you for that. Everybody's been put into a tough position just across the board. Enough said on that for the last year and a half. On the tracking strains, I'm really glad you mentioned that, Commissioner Maddox, and thank you, Claudia, for your comments and Ms. County Administrator on that. I think, I've gotten some clarity on this, I guess, over the weeks, and Ms. County Administrator, you and I have talked about this. What I think I had some questions about early on, going back to August, was whether or not we had direction from this board that would invite that recommendation from this group. And that, obviously, they're working with our team very well, but I wanted to make sure we were in the right posture where this group of experts knew that they could recommend mitigation steps to us if needed, if a surge happened. Delta came up very fast for all of us, and it looks like we're on track to see a second record month of deaths, quite frankly, at TMH. We didn't have clarity from the state with our COVID data because of decisions at the state level going back to June, and that wasn't adjusted and sort of adjusted more recently, but certainly through the surge. So that was really some of my questions going into the meeting, and being here with you all and hearing the formal presentation really helps give me some confidence that we're all on the same page and that we have the right direction to our staff and to our healthcare experts, our partners, that we want them to make this recommendation. And importantly, closing it out to your point, Commissioner Maddox, if they see another surge coming and another variant, that's when we want to hear it. So I think we have that clarity now, both in our individual conversations and with the conference calls that are happening and from our staff. Mr. County Administrator, you've been nodding along with me, so you think that's a fair summary of just kind of these things were happening, but now we have that direction and that clarity of what the procedure may be going forward?
I do, and while many times our coordinating calls may be on one thing or another, it might be on resourcing, it may be on another issue, I think that there's, and certainly we were in a posture all along to bring you those recommendations, and I think those public health professionals and the hospital professionals certainly were inclined to offer any of that guidance. I think having that very specific conversation and hearing that directly from the board about your desire to get that and to get it as early as possible and that sort of thing, I think was very good. And I think there's again no miscommunication about that. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
And the last thing, Mr. Chair, I just want to take this opportunity. Claudia mentioned the FSU testing lab, and we haven't talked about this in probably a year, or it hasn't been in the news. But this was pretty significant that excuse me, I think it was more than a year ago, FSU invested in setting up a lab at Innovation Park to do their own COVID testing and to track some of the variants. And really want to applaud FSU's forethought in that and working with the partners to give us another local resource to do that tracking. So I think that's really significant and don't want to lose that in all of the various things happening here, that's a great asset for our community. So you remind me of that as well, Commissioner Maddox. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Let's try to pick up our tempo a little bit, if you all don't mind. I've got Commissioner Maddox to close this out. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One last thing I talked to Mark about was the fact of, correct me if I'm wrong, Vince, I believe we only have a total of like 42 days that we can actually mandate, 7 days, 6 weeks. As we move forward, I think we need to think hard about if we move in that direction, which it should be a really big surge or something coming, noticing that we have a limited amount of days that we can do that. It's not like we can just put it on like we did last year and it rolls. It's 42 days. So after those 42 days, let's say, 3 months later we have something that's worse than what we're in, we don't have any days left. So I think when we hear about things, we start having conversations and thinking about mitigation tactics and things like that, we really need to rely heavily on our healthcare professionals and hear what they say and do what they say, understanding that they understand that we have that limitation in days too. So, and I know we all trust our healthcare professionals and know that they have our best interest in mind as well as our city and county's best interest in mind. So I just want to put that out there and remind us of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Ms. Blackburn, thank you very much again for all your efforts and for coming to update us for the last 19 months. Appreciate it. Mr. Cavell, thank you very much for your work. Mr. County Administrator, that closes out our general business. We are now moving on to comments and discussion items. First, we have the items from the County Attorney. Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have one item for the board this evening. It's a follow-up to a matter that I introduced briefly at the last meeting. You may recall that the day before the last board meeting, so it would have been, I believe, Monday the 13th, the governor made certain public statements that government employers who require that their employees be vaccinated were violating a statute that became effective July 1. That statute's 381.00316. Subsequent to that, and it happened actually last Friday, toward the close of business, County Administrator Long received a letter by email from Division Director at Department of Health, referencing the statute 381.00316, expressing Department of Health's interpretation of that statute, consistent with the governor's previous public statements that requiring proof of vaccination from employees violates the statute. Further stating that the Department of Health is authorized to impose a fine of $5,000 per individual violation of the statute. The letter attached a copy of the vaccination memo that County Administrator Long sent out to all county employees on July 28th of this year, stating the vaccination requirement and the deadline within which to comply, which will be by 11:59 p.m. this coming Friday, October 1st. The letter further said that Leon County will be subject to the fines for each individual violation, and requested that we immediately provide the current number of total employees who are subject to the requirement. So this is in the way of a status update for the board. We're not in active litigation, so I can't request a shade meeting for a meeting of this body to talk in any detail about any potential litigation strategy if we end up that way. But this is just an opportunity to provide this update to the board and let you know that absent any additional guidance from the board, administration, and I won't speak for Administrator Long, but that the county intends to proceed with the plan of action to terminate any county employees who have not complied with the requirement, effective 12 a.m. on October 2nd.
Thank you, Madam County Attorney. Let me jump in and just respond and say that, from the very first day of the vaccine policy, I've supported the county administrator's decision on this. In my mind, this has never been about politics. This has never been about trying to defy the governor. There are two key reasons for this policy. Number one is to protect the lives and the health of Leon County employees and the public that we interact with. And number two is to ensure operational readiness of the staff in serving the people of Leon County. Those, as I see it and have always seen it, are the two reasons why we have this policy. And so I support the county administrator on this. I still support the county administrator on this. Any comments, questions from the other members of the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Commissioner Dozier and I, at the last meeting, or one of those meetings ago, stated our readiness to bring forth a resolution of support for the county administrator's position to institute in our county a policy of vaccinate or terminate. I indicated a willingness that I stood by, and with the administrator, I felt that we should have closed ranks, but I think that this particular moment gives us no choice. And therefore, if I may ask a question of the county attorney, and if her answer is in the affirmative, then I know that this moment requires us to join ranks because we will be in litigation, I suspect. But Madam Attorney, is it still your legal opinion that the policies that have been enacted by our administrator to vaccinate or terminate are within our home rule authority and within the spectrum of legal rights which a county has, an administrator has, to do those two things which the chairman has just pointed out, to be operationally ready to serve the public? What is your legal view to us tonight in light of 386.00316?
Madam County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Under employment law, what the county administrator has required is legal. It is not discriminatory conduct under employment law. With respect to 381.00316, I do not believe that the statute applies in the employer-employee context. And there was never any indication prior to September 13th, when the governor made his public announcement, that there was ever any intent for the statute to apply in that context. I will be very straightforward. I cannot guarantee a result. To use some of your terminology, Vice Chair Proctor, I can't guarantee that Department of Health can't get a judge to walk with it and accept Department of Health's interpretation of the statute, but I believe we have a good case. Given the potential financial ramifications, though, I mean, I certainly thought that it was prudent and necessary to raise the issue with the board this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Commissioners, just if we're going down the line, and I think that we really ought to go down the line, and I'll start on that line and say that I stand with the chairman in his sentiments. And one domino has fell, and I'm falling this direction. And there is nothing that the county attorney has said is illegal in an employment law, and that it perhaps is a stretch to make 386 to cherry pick this matter and stretch and make its canopy include this particular measure of employment decision-making by and discretion of our county administrator. So I'm standing there. I don't see anything we've done wrong. In previous comments, I talked about the political climate. Health officials are being intimidated, being frightened. Superintendents are being intimidated. They're being frightened. Gainesville, I believe it was the school board, being threatened not to receive paychecks. I mean, I know this is the state of Florida, but it doesn't feel like it, strangely. It just does not feel that way. And these are the elements and the dynamics which I am referring to, with which we're expecting people who are shaken, who've always thought that science was science. And in the effort to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of our employees and our public, we've made a decision utilizing the best thought that we think is best. And now we're being intimidated. We should not melt, we should not fold, and I think that we should stand guard and ready to defend our best judgment to protect the public, to protect the safety, to protect the health of all citizens. And sometimes you have to draw a line in the sand, no matter who it is that would want you to blink, flinch, and back down from doing what's right. And we have not done nothing wrong. So I stand with you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate your stance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Proctor. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to add much. I think you and the Vice Chair summed it up well. And I wanted to just add to that and echo your support for this policy and for moving forward, that I know this has been very difficult for some employees. We've received a handful of communications, not much at all. And I want to just say to our county workforce that I understand there's a lot of different opinions, and I really appreciate any of those who have worked through those decisions and really encourage them. We've got a great team, and I hope they will stay. I hope they will take this step, because it is in the best interest of them and their families, our workforce, and significantly the operational readiness of our county. So for those folks in the county family, I just I just wanted to acknowledge if there's any of them that are struggling with this, I understand that and really do care about them. I think this is an important policy. So that is it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Any other comments or questions from the board? Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I realize I'm going to be in the minority here. As I have stated publicly, I cannot support the county administrator's directive to fire our employees. I think as public-facing officials, we do have a duty to encourage people to get vaccinated. I have said it in every way that I can publicly. I think it's the right thing to do. I think that it is the responsible thing to do, but at the end of the day, I cannot, in good conscience, fire someone for making that decision. I think in principle, I agree with the county administrator. I think that he's doing what he thinks is right for the workforce. But ultimately, I feel like there is still room in that conversation to come up with other alternatives. We can put people in different locations. We can require testing. We can require masks in certain environments or whatever the case may be. So it would not be my opinion that we get involved in a protracted legal obligation that could cost a lot of money. I would prefer that we not have a standoff with the governor across the street. I think we can all say that we don't appreciate the governor injecting himself into these local issues, whether it's the school board or the county commission or whatever. But I think at the same time, we have to respect the authority that he can. And when you're talking about millions of dollars in fines, potentially, that's a pretty substantial fiscal burden that this board is responsible for bearing on behalf of the taxpayers in the county. So I think it is appropriate to get vaccinated. I think it is important for us to say that it is appropriate to get vaccinated. I just don't think we're at a point yet where we need to fire someone for that choice. I think 70% of the people that are eligible in the United States are vaccinated at this point. 70% have one shot, if I'm not mistaken. So we're getting there. We're getting to where we need to be. And I just feel like at this point, and maybe we get to a point where we continue to see these variant surges, we continue to see ups and downs and peaks and valleys going forward, and perhaps you make it a condition of employment, but I don't know if it's right to make it a condition of unemployment. And that is just my feeling on that. So I've said multiple times, I have full faith in the county administrator, and I really do. I appreciate what he's trying to do. I appreciate his intention. It's not a political issue. I just don't feel like we're at a point yet where we can put people on the street, especially in this environment where we have significant labor shortages in our economy across the board. So I would prefer that we wait and see, as opposed to having a stare down with the executive branch. And I think that's the fiscally responsible thing to do. But I also think it gives us time to reassess whether or not we can work with our employees, the very few that I understand who are still uncomfortable, and just continue to try and encourage them. So I apologize if I'm in the minority in that belief on this board. It is not a question of my faith in the county administrator. I think we just did our evaluations of the county administrator. I think that, and I said this in my evaluation, I think that his handling of the COVID pandemic and the CARES program, and then doing that simultaneously with the economic development that we've seen with Amazon in my first year on this commission, has been nothing short of miraculous and admirable. And I completely respect and appreciate his position on this. He has a a substantial burden to make sure that this organization can be ready. And I think that that's a different conversation when you're talking about frontline workers like EMS workers. But I think when you're talking about somebody who mows the grass at Woodville Park, who doesn't feel comfortable being vaccinated and makes $10 an hour or $12 an hour or $14 an hour for their families, I think it's a tough conversation to fire somebody for that. If you're outside at Woodville Park by yourself, I think you maintain that you got to be that way. You got to wear a mask when you're indoors next to somebody, and you got to get tested weekly. I think that's another alternative. So that's how I feel on that, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Thank you very much. You know, one of the things I like about this county commissioner is that we can disagree on positions, but yet still have respect for each other, and that's the case here. So really appreciate you speaking your mind and making your voice heard. Because this item from the Madam County Attorney is a status update, and I've spoken with her about this, there's no action required by this board unless we want to direct the county administrator and the county attorney to do something different than what we're currently doing. If there's no motion at hand to change the course of action from where we are right now, we'll go ahead and we'll proceed to the next item. Is that correct? Is that fine with everybody? All right. Mr. County Administrator, you're up for any discussion items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and appreciate your support on that last item, and certainly respect all the positions of the commission. I do. Commissioners, just one quick item, and I want to acknowledge I shared this with you all this week, and it's with a heavy heart again that I share, and I felt like it was probably appropriate at this meeting, since we were meeting today, that James Shaw, an MIS team member who we all knew very well, passed away last week, and James was an important part of our technology team's success, and of course he'll be missed by everyone here in the county family. Our policy, it will be that all county facilities will fly the county flag at half-mast until James is laid to rest, and I know that our thoughts and prayers are with the Shaw family at this difficult time. And should the family share any service details, of course, Commissioners, I'll be sure to pass that along to you, Mr. Chairman, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. County Administrator. My condolences to the Shaw family. All right, we're now at discussion items by Commissioners. We'll try to mix it up a little bit right here. Commissioner Jackson, did you have any items that you'd like to bring up for discussion items?
No, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome. Commissioner Cummings, any items, ma'am?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing.
All right. Thank you very much. Commissioner Welch.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't remember if I've mentioned this already, but I want to thank the tourism development staff, the county administrator, for helping execute a travel baseball tournament a couple weeks ago in the county. Something I had requested and something I'm very interested in. Had a very productive tournament at Woodville Park. I guess it was about 2 weekends ago. Hugely successful, parking lot full of cars, most of them from Leon County, so it was a travel from, District 4 to District 1 or 2, I don't know which one, but it was still nice to be able to play weekend travel baseball in the county. It was beautifully handled, and I saw county staff out there working in between games, making sure everything was going smoothly, so I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Welch. Commissioner Dozier.
Wrong button there. You threw me off. Chair, he is mixing it up on us. Thank you. Good meeting. This was a little bit of an odd day with a long break, but I appreciate our workshop earlier today. I think we may say this most years, but I think it's rather significant that we don't have huge meetings when we get to budget hearings like some counties around the state do. And I think it is really to the credit of our schedule and, the incredible work that happens very early in the year and all of the meetings and workshops that we have and all of the information staff provides to us on an ongoing basis. So thank you for that. It gets us into a nice, easy landing. Maybe not the easy, that's not the right word for you all, Mr. County Administrator, but for the board and for the public hearing, we land in a good place come September. So thank you for that. I appreciate you mentioning James Shaw. This one hit me pretty hard, I will say. We don't have the pleasure of spending a lot of time with a lot of our county staff, but James was one of the few who we did get, for many of us, we got to interact with him a whole lot because he was our go-to guy for computers and everything, and would always roll his eyes a little bit when I said, no, sir, I don't need a new iPad, or something like that, trying to push it off. And he was just always so incredibly helpful. I don't mean to imply that we're getting new tech, but just, he wanted to take care of us all the time, and his smile and his spirit will be missed. So thank you for sharing that. The other thing I just wanted to mention is really didn't get to talk about this much. I didn't mention at the last meeting. I was remote, and thank you for accommodating that difficulty. I know Commissioner Jackson is doing it now. At least we have that ability. But the day of service, just going back to that event, it really was exceptional. We rotate between different districts, and I'm really glad that we had a neighborhood in District 5 this year. Talking to the folks from the neighborhood, they were so thrilled and so complimentary of our county staff and all the work. I really just enjoy that day. I enjoy giving back, enjoy spending time with our county staff, and just really appreciate that, Mr. County Administrator, and your incredible team that sets that up. Likewise, I missed the Appalachia Park opening of all of the different facilities and everything in our cross-country track, and the logos, everything that you've done out there, the welcome is just exceptional. And the timing is really wonderful with putting on our application, which I think we'll win for the World Championships, right? So, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback, and people are really excited about that. So, Mr. Chair, that's going back a few weeks, but since I wasn't here with you last week, or on the 14th, I just wanted to mention those two things. And lastly, both of those issues really came up at the FACT Innovation Conference last week. I talked to a number of our colleagues from around the state, particularly with sports, and it was getting some traction, as a few other things from Tallahassee, like our 3D printed home. I'll recognize Kendra Light and just say a lot of commissioners picked that story up from around the state. So really proud of our community, and proud of the feedback we were getting last week at FACT. So that's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Commissioner Dozier. Vice Chair Proctor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I indicated at the FACT meeting last week that I would not be attending the FACT meeting, which will be over in Walton County, in Destin. Some years ago, around 2015, I believe, Walton County opted to place as their county's flag the war flag of the Confederacy. During that time, the Tallahassee Chamber had scheduled an annual retreat over in Walton County. I announced that I would not be attending. I didn't ask anybody else not to go, but for the world to know that I would not meet there and take our county's dollars there. Subsequent to my public declaration, our mayor at that time, Andrew Gillum, announced that he would not be attending. And I believe the next year, the chamber decoupled its contract and moved, and we've been going to, or they've been going to Amelia Island since then. I will meet tomorrow with FACT leadership to ask that we reroute that meeting, and that we ought never again to allow for the assembly of 67 counties to assemble under the war flag of the Confederacy. One of our legislative priorities noted today before us the removal of the Confederate emblems and symbols there on the front lawn of the state's capitol. And while it's a legislative priority of this commission to have that symbol removed and taken out of the public site, certainly not in the front of the state's capitol, that our association of which we're affiliated with is going over to Walton County. Sometimes, Mr. Chairman, our walk has to match our talk. And when things occur, and in Richmond, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago, General Lee came down in Richmond, the capital. And if General Lee can come down, certainly a flag over Walton County should come down. And until it comes down, I will not be attending a public meeting in that particular county. And I want you all to know why you won't see me there. Mr. James Shaw, a pastor and a preacher, was always kind enough that when there was computer questions, he was always gentle enough to allow me to believe that it was the computer's fault and not the operator's. And I respected that he allowed me to assert that it was technical error and all the computer's fault. It had nothing to do with my inabilities. So I thank him for never bursting my bubble. We shared that our daughters in the same year both attended schools in Pennsylvania. And we looked at each other sometimes and just smiled, knowing that we were just broke dads and sacrificing fathers with no money, because our girls went to Pennsylvania to go to school, and we shared that, but we didn't complain. Classic, a gentleman. We're going to miss James, and to his family, we send love, we send prayers, and our entire board will miss him, and we convey to you just how deeply, in his quiet way, he touched all of us. So we're grateful for him. And then I want to say to this commission that I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that you've been a stellar commission. And in these last several meetings, we've had a high level of dialogue. And in the midst of our making and deliberation of public policy, the courage of our administrator has greatly been symbolic, I think, of the strength that we represent. And certainly he would not be who he is if he felt, I did not feel the substance of who we are. So his isness derives from our are-ness, and who we are contributes to who he is, and that he feeds upon and empathizes with us in that way. Vince, we thank you, and we're very proud of your courage. And then finally, commissioners, I ask for your support, and I make the motion that we have I think it's a resolution, proclamation, declaration for the Perkins family, a resolution, proclamation. Ask for a motion for proclamation honoring the Perkins family for the street on Gamble was changed to Robert and Trudy Perkins Way, I believe, or Boulevard, two weeks ago. And city officials were there and made much over it. And I would like for our board to commemorate what in our community happens so seldom. A black family, husband and wife recognized for civil rights activities, and I ask your support for a
Second.
proclamation.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor of the motion as stated by Vice Chair Proctor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Commissioner Jackson, what's your vote on Vice Chair Proctor's motion for a proclamation, sir?
Yes, aye.
Oh, thank you very much. Just wanted to clarify. Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Vice Chair Proctor. Commissioner Maddox is next.
Mr. Chair, good meeting. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Wrapping things up, I've got a request for 2 proclamations. One would be to proclaim October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Leon County. Would someone be willing to make that motion? Motion is made by Commissioner Welch, seconded by Commissioner Cummings. All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. And then the other one is to a proclamation to recognize Leon County Volunteer Firefighter Day, which will be presented at a volunteer fire truck roundup event on October 9th. Motion's been made by Commissioner Welch and seconded by Commissioner Cummings, a little bit quicker on it there.
Remember, Mr. Chair, I was just going to say, I am thrilled the roundup is back.
Yeah.
It was one of the great events. I hope everybody goes. Yes.
October 9th, 11 a.m.,
I think they
Tom
beat
Brown
you
Park.
to the second, for sure.
Did you call that a roundup? A roundup.
Or roundup,
Yeah.
fire truck roundup, 24th annual.
Speaking of a roundup, Mr. Chairman, I want to ask maybe if Commissioner Jackson wanted to represent our board at the rattlesnake roundup. I think it's in Attapulgos. Somewhere. We could send a representative. Commissioner Jackson, if you would lead us and represent us at that rattlesnake roundup, that would be great.
Well, I certainly appreciate the nomination. However, the handling of serpents is only done by people that are closer and more in touch with our great beyond. So I think he would be a more appropriate choice.
Hey, I tried.
Well said, Commissioner Jackson. I was wondering how you're going to end that sentence, and you did pretty well. Thank you. Thank you very much. Motion's on the floor for a proclamation for Leon County Volunteer Firefighter Day. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. And that is all I have under my discussion items. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Motion. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.